let's get into the team building, which is the most important thing with Skirk. I feel like she has a lot of versatility when it comes to weapons. When it comes to artifacts, I guess there is some sort of versatility, depending on how long you've been playing the game, of course. But this is the premium team, and instead of Mona, it would be Shenhe, right? But since I don't have Shenhe, I'm going to use Mona. Aside from that, you can slot in any other Hydro or Cryo character. It doesn't really matter if you have Scoffier. Now, if you don't have Scoffier, you are looking at a very difficult team building process. But let's just say, for example, you have this is really bad because there's not a lot of crowd characters that you can really put to use with Skirk. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how many or how useful they are, right? Because she gets like a humongous boost to her damage due to her fucking passives that we're going to get into later. But so far, if you just want a nice free-to-play team, whatever, you can use Xingqiu. If you have Yelan, that's cool too. She works well. You can use maybe Diona for the shield, and I'm going to get into why you would want to use Diona for a shield instead of Layla. Right, Layla is cool too, she's fine, but I feel like Diona would be a whole lot better because she can also heal aside from shielding. Another character you can slot in can be Changyun, just to infuse her physical damage with cryo when she's obviously off of her elemental skill. But if she's not on her elemental skill, you are likely just cycling through the characters anyway, so kind of useless. You could slot in Mika, who also heals but also boosts attack speed, which is actually pretty good. Same with Dahlia. Dahlia also shields. If you have Dahlia, Dahlia would be a better pick than Diona in my opinion, because you can just slot in a healer, right, instead of just someone that can cover both areas, just because that means one of the areas is going to be weaker. In this situation, Diona's shield isn't really as strong, right? But yeah, Dahlia would be a great pick because again, shielding, hydro, right? So it corresponds with the elements that's necessary for Skirk's whole passive to just proc and give her a huge amount of damage. Dahlia would be a great pick over here. Unfortunately, I got Skirk too early, which didn't allow me to get any copies of Dahlia. I could summon for him, but I'm not going to. I don't want to risk it. Like I said, Changyun could be on a part of the team as well, but I feel like there are better picks than Changyun. So again, you could do something like this. Imagine this is Dahlia, right? You could have a team with like Xingqiu, Dahlia. This is if you're free to play. This is very copium. I'm very sorry, but this is not gonna get any close to being as powerful as their premium teams. So I apologize. Who's trying to join my? Dahlia being here would be a great pick instead of Diona. Mika being here could be great. He could also be replaced again by any other Cryo Hydro character. You could even fuck around and put Candace in there. It doesn't really matter. You could put as well Barbara. You could slot in Barbara. Charlotte would be cool too. You could Barbara would be actually kind of great because she heals a pretty good amount. Use Barbara for Thrilling Tales as well, which would be pretty fantastic. It would be like a 45%. Is it 45 or 48? I think it's 48 if I'm not mistaken. 48% increase on attack percent, which means you'll have to use Barbara before switching to Skirk. So yeah, you get like a 48% increase on attack, which is what Skirk scales off for 10 seconds, which is it's just fucking insane. It's pretty good. So that's why Barbara gets a lot of usefulness on Skirk's team. Also, she's a great healer. She's one of the OG 4-stars. She's an amazing healer. She's great. She's beautiful. She's pretty. And she's very cute. And also she's Hydro, right? So a team like this, it would be, let's say, who else is crowd that I can slot in here? Yeah, I think you can slot in Mika, but I'm not sure if you get like diminishing returns from having both Mika and Dahlia due to the fact that they both boost attack speed. But I think if you have Mika, Dahlia, Barbara, and Skirk, you would be cool. You could use Kokomi as well if you want to heal, right? I don't have a Kokomi, but hey, you can cope as much as you want. There's a lot of options when it comes to those two elements. Aside from that, I think that's as much as you can do for coping. You could even throw whatever. Just throw anything that sticks. Whatever you have that corresponds with Cryo or Hydro, you'll be fine. I wouldn't say you'll be dealing like immense amounts of damage compared to her, to her premium team. But if you for some reason skip Scoffier or you don't have Furina, unfortunately, you are not looking very good on the team building. But I hope you can get around it with some sort of like, I don't know, maybe you summon for constellations for Skirk, or you get her her weapon to like R5 or something for some reason. I do have her and also her weapon. I got very lucky. Unfortunately, you will never get this lucky. So it's okay. Anyways, the premium team that I have, or the team that I have, I'm sorry, that was very disrespectful and rude of me to say. I apologize. So yeah, this is the team that I'll be rocking with her, just because it's very powerful. The crowd resistance reduction that Scoffier provides is ridiculously useful. It's just too good to pass on. And I'm very sorry if you skip the character. Furina, incredible character. She synergizes with Scoffier very well, because she can, as long as you use Furina first, you can buff Scoffier, and then Scoffier would use her ultimate, or her skill, ultimate, whatever, to shred the defense and also heal, which is very necessary for the fanfare stacks, because, you know, when you use Furina's ultimate, you lose health. Even though she increases, you need to increase the health fast enough to really get like as much as possible out of the fanfare stacks, right, to get them to the maximum output. Another character that you can slot in if you have the premium team, so this is now premium, okay? You can put in Mona, right? Which Mona, everybody will have Mona once October rolls around, which I'm pretty sure is when they have their anniversary. This would be a pretty good team, especially if you have Mona's C4, which is unfortunate that I don't have it. When any party member attacks an opponent affected by an omen really comes from her ultimate. If you are confused, once you use your ultimate, that's what it's called. It's called an omen. That's how long it lasts. So unfortunately, I don't have it fully leveled up, which I really wish I could, which gives a pretty respectable damage boost to the DPS as long as you switch from Mona to the DPS, because technically if you're using Mona, you will have Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer. Am I talking too much? Am I talking too fast? I'm sorry, I apologize. Let's move on to Skirk. You want her to be at level 80 or level 90. It doesn't really matter, but she does scale with attack. So technically level 80 out of 90 is okay, is good enough. You don't really have to get her any further, or 80 out of 80 is also cool too. Now for her weapon, right, fantastic, beautiful weapon. The signature will always be the best as long as you're going for a hybrid build, right? Because she does vary between two playstyles, which one revolves around her obviously normal burst, and the other one revolves around her normal attacks. But what it does is, let's find out together. Within 12 seconds after an elemental skill is used, attack is increased by 24% during this time. When the equipping character has 0 energy, which is all the time because she really doesn't really abide by the rules of Tevat for some reason, but she does use cryo. Make fucking sense. Attack will be further increased by 24%, and crit damage will be increased by 40%, which is really good. The reason I was speaking about a shield character like Diona or even Dahlia is because there is this one event weapon that came out a while ago called Calamity of Eshu. And if you are shielded, right, if Skirk is shielded, come here, you get a 40% increase on your normal and charge attack damage and 16% crit rate, just for being shielded, which is pretty good, right? If you are using Calamity of Eshu, I recommend you go with Finale of the Deep Galleries, just because, well, you'll be shielded, you're not really going to be taking a lot of damage. But if you're using her in Abyss, that shield is probably going to get one-shotted, to be honest. But depending on how Dahlia's constellations are, maybe they make the shield stronger and whatnot, that could be fantastic as well. If you want to goof around a little bit, there is a very old artifact set called Retracing Bolide. The 4-piece gives you a 40% increase as well on normal and charge attack damage if you are shielded, which is kind of fucking insane, which means you'll be getting 80% increase on normal and charge attack damage. It's not very optimal just because, you know, the 2 pieces gives you like shield strength, but it's still pretty, it could be cool. You know, you could try it out just to have fun and whatnot. If you don't have Calamity of Eshu, another weapon that's very good on Skirk is Finale of the Deep. Crazy. Her set is called Finale of the Deep Galleries, and now this sword is called Finale of the Deep. It's almost as if they were made for each other. Even the color pattern almost matches. It's kind of crazy. No, it actually kind of matches. I didn't even see the little hilt. Wow. Okay. But yeah, this sword is also pretty good because you get an attack increase. You do need to be careful because of the Bond of Life mechanic. You know, you have to heal like the red bar that's consuming the health before you can really heal the character that's using the sword. Very annoying, but it's a pretty good sword. You know, it gives you a pretty nice amount of attack percentage, which she scales off of attack, and it also gives you some base attack as well. Another weapon that you could use on her that I've seen going around is Ayato's signature weapon. If you for some reason have the sword and not him, trust me, I relate to not having the characters of the weapons I have, so yeah, it wouldn't be the first one. I love this game. One thing that I forgot to mention with the team building, the reason you want 2 cryo characters at least is because the resonance, right? The double cryo resonance gives you a 15% increase on crit rate, which is also pretty good. You will never really be struggling with crit rate. You'll always have sources where it'll just come from there and you'll have enough most of the time. Now for the sets, for the artifact sets, you might be like, well, this set looks questionable. Why don't you just have Finale of the Deep Galleries? Well, because I don't have good pieces of Finale of the Deep Galleries, unfortunately. I only have good pieces of Hunter. Good enough to really slot on her, but the reason you also could use Hunter is if you have Furina on the team, because the 4-piece, even though the 2-piece is pretty good because it gives you normal and charge attack damage, the 4-piece, as your health increases or decreases, you feel me? Fanfare stacks whenever she ults. She reduces and increases your health, right? It just fluctuates up and down. So you'll be getting a crit rate boost and it'll be boosted by 12% for 5 seconds, a max of 3 stacks, which is kind of fucking insane, right? So it's a very good set if you have enough pieces of this lying around that are pretty powerful, right? With pretty good subsets and whatnot. If you have Furina on the team as well, even better, right? But if you don't, unfortunately, you might have to go with Finale of the Deep Galleries because there's not really a team or a character, sorry, that reduces your health like Furina does with her ultimate. So if you don't have Furina, Finale of the Deep Galleries is going to be the better set out of the 2, just because, well, if you are not having your health taken away or increased, which is kind of rare just because of how fast she clears everything, unless you're not dodging and just face tanking everything, just powering through it, then yeah, it could work. But if you don't have Furina, it's very inconsistent just because most of the times, I'm pretty sure you won't get hit. If you have Dali on the team and you have a shield especially, that's another thing. Moving on to her constellations. Now her talents. So her talents, you want to focus on whichever playstyle you want to really, you know, get the most out of. Me personally, I want a whole hybrid build just because I do have a weapon. It boosts both the elemental skill and the elemental burst, which is pretty cool, pretty good, pretty nice. Now the elemental skill, very powerful. And if you want a hybrid build, I'm pretty sure the best you can do is first you ult and then you tap the skill, right? Which allows you to use a whole different ultimate. Now, let me explain. It might sound a bit complicated, but stay with me for a little bit, okay? The rifts are generated by proccing or reacting with cryo with either Animo for cryo swirl, electro for superconduct, cryo, and Geo, which is cryo crystallize, or even frozen. Yes, that's considered a reaction. Yes, we're doing it live, baby, right? So we're gonna keep attacking. There's one rift. This is the little rift right here, right? There's another one right there. The way you consume them, you can either hold it and then ult. The second playstyle that you could use, and I'll explain those little arrows popping up above my head in a bit, is her elemental skill, but this time with basic attacks, right? So these rifts are gonna spawn in. You tap the skill button to collect them. You can either charge attack, or you can, if it generates another one, you can either ult again and it'll completely collect all of them. What these rifts do is that they boost your damage, not by a lot, but it's still very it's still very nice, very noticeable, very cool. Now, let's explain the little arrows. Those were the rifts. Now, these things is where a huge amount of damage comes from, like incredible, right? So all you do is, hear me out, switch into another character, whether it's Hydro or Cryo, right? And you will have these little arrows pop up above your head. You can go up to 3, which is why it says 110%, 120%, 170%, 170%, right? Sorry. Oh, I have so much energy. So these arrows, as you can see, they will also be summoned if you use a different character. So if I attack with Scoffier and use her skill, or even her ultimate, it'll generate one of those arrows, as you're gonna see right now, as soon as he can come out of his invincible state. Right, there's one right there. If I go to Furina, there's another one right there. If I go to Mona and attack a little bit more, there's 3 right there. Now what they do is that depending on how many you generate, that's how much damage you'll get out of here. Apparently these numbers are multipliers, not really percentages. Kind of crazy. So it would be 10%, which is 1.0, right? 2.0, 7.0. So your damage is going to be multiplied by 7. Whatever damage you, it's, oh my gosh, this character is so fun. Still Mavuka is on the top, of course. Yeah, so for the 7-phase flash mode, which is her skill, if you're going to be building her for that, then you're going to pretty much want to take advantage of this buff as much as possible. Is insane, right? It's fucking incredible. It makes your Skirk feel so powerful, so nice, so smooth, buttery, incredibly smooth. Like I'm not even joking. She feels incredible. She's amazing, right? She's one of the best characters that I've ever laid my eyes on, right? Or even put my hands on. She's one of the best characters that I've ever played when it comes to like really being satisfied with seeing huge numbers and just seeing the health bars just completely be decimated. This character is incredible. She's beautiful, she's powerful, and she's not my wife, unfortunately. Havoc Ruin is the ultimate that you can also use, right? If you have those 3 triangles, debuffs are different. I'm not sure why. It's like they took 10% out of this one, as if that would make a difference. You will be literally completely obliterating whatever boss or enemy you are fighting up against. So again, if you see the arrows, for the first arrow 105%, for the second arrow 115%, for the third arrow, which is the max, there will be a 160% increase on your damage. Again, apparently it's a multiplier, which is kind of insane. Now for her third passive, one of the best passives I've ever seen on a fucking 5-star DPS character. She will immediately, right, as long as you have Cryo and Hydro together on the team, right, including Skirk, of course, they will all have their elemental skill increased by 1 level. That is crazy. Technically, my elemental skill is level 6. So this passive is leveling it up to level 7. If you have her at level 9, for example, she will quite literally crown herself. If anything, you don't really have to crown her. She will crown everybody if you just have a 9, 10, right? 9, 10, right? But obviously, they are at level 8. That's why it's just level 9. She's not really level 9. But that is my plan going through with this, or going forwards with this, except for Mona. I don't need the little taunts. I just need this to be level 10 for sure. Anyways, there's not much else to talk about Skirk. She's just super powerful. And as for rotations, wow, imagine me talking about rotations after getting completely fucking obliterated in the comments the last time I showed off a bit. For rotations, I'm not sure about Shenhe, but pretty much whatever character has thrilling tales of Dragon Slayer, which in this case is Mona, that's the character you want to use before Skirk, just so that 48% attack increase is transferred into Skirk herself. You don't want to mess up and be like, oh shit, I switched to Mona, let me go to Skafir now. Now that is going to be on cooldown for 20 seconds. That's horrible. Your rotation is fucked. You might have to restart. You might as well uninstall the game. Technically what I do, right, is I go Furina first, skill ult, Skafir, skill or ult, right? It doesn't really matter, but you do want the ult just because of the fanfare stacks and the whole mechanic of how it works, you know, decreasing health and taking health, right? You always want to be topped up. And then Mona into Skirk. So with Mona, you want to ult preferably, just because that's where the omen comes from, and that's the buff that you get, right? Like if the omen is applied, your characters will be dealing more damage, which is very good. But this right here, I'll show it off just for a little bit. It's really not that complicated, so this is what you want to do. With Skirk, again, you want to ult first, which is hold it, and then, you know, Q, whatever. He's gonna die. Yep. Okay, so you want to hold down the elemental burst so you can go into a regular burst, just so you could do what I just did there. After that, after you come out of her burst, you want to tap and then just go crazy with the basic attacks and whatnot, and try to collect as many rifts as possible, you know, by either charge attacking or using the diamond that's shown on the bottom right as her ultimate. Anyways, this is the final nail in the coffin. If you do not have Skafir or Furina, stay away from Skirk. With that said, please leave a like or subscribe, leave a comment, whatever. Tell me whichever character you want to see a build on, or just let me know what you dislike or like about the video so I can either change it or keep implementing it or improve upon it for the next video. Take care of yourself. See you guys in the next video, and I am out. Have a wonderful day. Why is she tweaking like that? That was the wrong one again.